Today we're talking about Pecha Kucha, or if there's variations of how you pronounce it. It is a presentation format using PowerPoint it's morphed into an entertainment venue, but it also has application towards the university setting. And this is Sean Seepersad.
I'm in child painting consumer sciences, and I use Pecha Kucha as a student assignment, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. And this is Travis Sheridan, and he is the MC.
Yes.
Of the local Pecha Kucha chapter here in Fresno, and I very graciously decided to visit us today and talk a little bit about it, since he knows probably more than any of us do about it, and we'll give a little spiel on it. So
great, great. We won't. I'll wait to start this in just one moment because this is on a timer, and if I start it now, it'll be over in 6 minutes and 40 seconds. So I want to have a little bit of control before I let the timer go. As Sean mentioned, I MC our local Pecha Kucha or Pecha Kucha. I say Pecha Kucha, that is the bastardized, Americanized version of it. It's really Pecha Kucha, but it's phonetically, it's two separate words. It looks like Pecha Kucha, so I will speak in my American tongue and ruin it the entire time. But it's a program that goes that Creative Fresno actually adopted. Creative Fresno is a local nonprofit here in the Central Valley, and our efforts and our purpose is to engage knowledge workers and creative professionals. And when we came across the Pecha Kucha night events, we said this is something that the Valley could really embrace. And so I think the best way to learn about it is for me to actually do one. And so assuming my timing works, I'm going to do a Pecha Kucha. It was started in Tokyo by a couple of architects, and architects are notorious for being long-winded, so the founders have said. They're so long-winded that they like to hear themselves speak, and the audience gets put to sleep relatively quickly, and so what has to be done is they need some parameters and some guidance. And so they've put together Pecha Kucha. I like to think of it as three different parts. It's one part professional presentation, one part speed dating, and one part karaoke. Now, when you mix all three of those things together, it makes for a dynamic environment. And it really is all three of those because you don't know who's coming up next or what their skill set is. Now, we have done 6 different Pecha Kucha or Pecha Kucha nights here in the Central Valley. Our most recent one was, the theme was Rebuild. Every time we do one, there is a theme. And so last time it was Rebuild, and that focused on a fundraiser for Haiti and the recovery efforts there. But this is a picture of Katrina Neufeld, who did one of our presentations. Now, it's structured so that you have 20 slides, and each slide is only up for 20 seconds. You need to be very concise. You need to be very well rehearsed. You need to be very comfortable with technical glitches that may come up because depending on how you put your script together, you may or may not be ready for it. Now, what's great is the audience usually won't fall asleep because they are stimulated the entire time, even if the presenter is incredibly boring. It originally focused, like I said, in the architectural area, and it encompasses all areas of design. I threw some images of different types of design that have been presented, graphic design, industrial technology, but we have had people present on educational and curriculum design, organizational design, and whatnot. Now, we're all familiar with the adage, if a tree falls in the forest and no one's around to hear it, does it really make a sound? The same thing is true when you're giving a presentation and it totally goes over the head and misses the point with your audience. Doesn't matter how wonderful and how well prepared the presenter is, if the audience is not engaged the entire time, who the heck cares? And in 6 minutes and 40 seconds, you have to quickly get to that point of focus. And so every Pecha Kucha or Pecha Kucha that's put together should have that thesis statement. We all remember the thesis statement when we were preparing our 5-paragraph essays in high school. You want to have that one point of focus and then weave a story so that the audience follows along and is fully engaged in the process. Just some information about communication. The average speaker speaks at a rate of 150 words per minute. If you get nervous, you have a tendency to speak faster, which starts communicating a little bit of distrust. If you speak slower, it communicates a little bit of uncertainty and lack of credibility. So you just need to become comfortable with that 150 words. But here's the problem. You all are listening at a rate of 300 words a minute. The speaker knows that, and so what the speaker tries to do is speed up to keep up with you. because you are already moving on from the words and moving on from the possible concept because you want to hear more. There is a way to get around this, and that is to engage the brain. The average person can listen or comprehend about 700 words per minute. That way, this means you want to actually put an image on the screen that coincides with what you're talking about, so they can, if they do tune you out, which is possible, they're at least looking at something that's keeping them focused on the message. Who cares if they're drawing their own conclusions? That's okay. Their conclusions are going to be closer aligned to what you're actually doing. Now, a lot of us have sat through what I call PowerPoint ventriloquism, which is what the speaker says actually matches the words that are on the screen, word for word, bullet for bullet. It gets very annoying because you've already moved on and you've read that entire page by the time that presenter has gotten to the second bullet point. And so we have to make sure that we make it a little bit more engaging. The other thing that's happened is what I call PowerPoint contradiction. These are all synonyms or types of different ways of thinking of the word happy. But what's happened sometimes is the person will talk about a sad little puppy that got run over or the starving children in another country. And so what they're talking about contradicts what the audience is looking at on the screen. So you have to make sure that you're balancing out how you're speaking with how the audience is listening and ultimately how they're comprehending. And so you control that by selecting images that are appropriate to the presentation and having a well-rehearsed presentation and having a comfort level presenting in front of folks. Now, the other part that I wanted to talk about is what goes into the communication message. And I use this model when I'm talking to anybody putting together Pecha Kucha. 3% of the message, or 7% of the message, really the words you use. 38% tone, pitch, rate of speech, and then this 55% are the nonverbal cues that you're giving. This means that 93% of what the message is comprised of is not this. It's not the words. So we spend a lot of time trying to craft the perfect message when the words really aren't as important. And if you try to impress people with your vocabulary and use words that are hard to understand or over people's head, they will spend the rest of the presentation trying to figure out what that one word meant. They may even jump on their iPhone to try to figure it out. Now, when I was in the military, I loved my drill sergeants because they could get us to move simply with tone and pitch. Doesn't sound like 1, 2, 3, 4, but gosh darn it, it was a perfect way to count for us. When you present, you can still use that same tone and pitch. You want to stream that throughout your presentation so that folks really are engaged the entire time. I'm going to be quiet for the next few seconds. Take a look. I didn't need to say anything. One of these words on the far side is probably what you came up with when looking at that picture of the woman. That's the power of nonverbal communication. They say a picture is worth 1,000 words. We've all heard that. So there are times that the presenter actually gets in the way of what is being presented. So if you select the right images, you're going to expand what's called the field of experience. What you understand and what the audience understands, your goal at the end of a Pecha Kucha is not for them to agree with you. The goal is a greater overlap in the field of experience, field of common understanding. I think that that's a challenge sometimes because we want to convince people that we are right. We want to convince people that what we're presenting is dynamic, when all we should really care about is a greater overlap in field of experience and a field of understanding. So Pecha Kucha, 20 images, 20 seconds each one, 6 minutes and 40 seconds. It'll go faster than, faster than your prom. Let's put it that way.